Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to have our presentation of business research methods, and the presentation is on the critical evaluation and presentation. So, firstly, I'm going to present to you my team members. My team consists of first Gawtum MAntadin, second is Alexandre Hurdowar, third is Cedric Fleurot, and last is myself, Pooja Ram. Our critical evaluation and presentation is based upon three articles which we have reviewed. Namely, the first article is Managerial Competencies and Career Advancement, a comparative study of managers in two countries. So this will be evaluated and analyzed by myself. And then the second article is on the effect of diversity on human resource management and on organizational performance. So this article will be reviewed, analyzed, and talked about by Gawtum. The third one, which we have reviewed, is the crossover dialogue approach, the importance of multiple methods for international business. So this last article Alexandre will talk about it, and lastly, the comparison will be made.
Now let's start to evaluate and analyze the Article 1. Article 1 talks about the managerial competency within different culture and work environment which are being compared, as well as faster career progressing managers are being differentiated from their peer. To be more precise, this paper actually examined the assessed competency and performance of British private sector and Singaporean public managers. So therefore, it tries to assess whether competencies actually relate or tally with career advancement or not. In terms of the Hofstede's theory, it is a framework for cross-cultural communication. So in this article, Hofstede underscored the needs for understanding the cultural context within which managerial behavior is viewed as effective or ineffective. So although cultural contexts differ, the predominant management theory developed in the United States and applied globally suggests that modern managerial practice and the competencies associated with them largely apply across culture. So we have also categorized two kinds of managers, which is competencies and career advancement. Competencies are mostly planning, organizing, and motivating, whereas career advancement will look at more into culture, environment, and work environment. So now the next step is the literature review. We have seen that this is a very extensive article, rational and consistent, and it has at least 57 references, mostly from the 80s, 90s, and 20s. So to be able to evaluate this article, we have developed hypotheses. So there are three hypotheses. The first one is when a common instrument is used to determine competency requirement of British and Singaporean manager, there will be no significant differences in the managerial competency cluster. Whereas hypothesis 2 suggests that when a common instrument is used to determine the required managerial competency of British and Singaporean manager, differences in specific managerial competency will arise from differences in the private and public sector environment. Whereas hypothesis 3 is other than the manager's assessed competency, there are no biographical variables that affect the career progression of the Singaporean public sector management. So the next step for us is to look at the methodology. So I think the approach here is, as per the article, is a deductive approach, which is more concerned with developing a hypothesis based on the existing theory that exists in the article itself, and then designing a research strategy to retest the hypothesis whether this is happening or not. It has been stated that deductive means reasoning from the particular to the general. Now, so that we have the nature of such research design is a deductive approach, which is more concerned with developing a hypothesis, and is explained by means of hypothesis, which can be derived from the proposition of the theory as a whole. As well as the data collection method is questionnaire, so you will have a look at those examples later on. And the data analytics method that we have found here is the regression analysis. So the regression analysis is a quantitative research method which is used when study involves modeling or even analyzing several variables where the relationship include a dependent variable and or one more independent variable. So here in terms of the research method, this is a quantitative research which focuses on gathering numerical data and generalizing it across group of people or to explain a particular phenomenon. And in terms of the sample size, we have seen that there have been 120 Singaporean sample and 100 British sample. So this is actually the result which we have conducted and which have found. There's been numerical result mostly, and so now let's quickly look at the result of our hypothesis. So I think hypothesis 1 and hypothesis 2 is being accepted. So whereas we are rejecting hypothesis 3. So competency is particular to the high advancement British manager or risk-taking and decisiveness. Competencies valued in the private sector where quick decisions involving risk are required to capitalize on the business opportunities. So competencies distinct to high advancement Singaporean manager or problem analysis, written communication, oral expression and oral presentation. So public sector decision making actually requires more consultation with various stakeholders. So these results support hypothesis 2, which predict that managerial competency differences of British and Singaporean manager arise from the difference in the private and the public sector as shown in table 1 and 2. So why are we rejecting hypothesis 3 is that we have seen that managers assess competency has no biographical variables affect the career progression of Singaporean public sector manager is actually not supported. And to conclude, we have seen that there has been similarities limitation and there has to be further research on this article. So the similarities are that competency clusters support the relevance of value-based typologies and dimensions that actually apply across different cultures. And the limitation is that no evidence that micromanagerial competency clusters are significantly different across cultures. And we have also had difficulties in sort of having we had unavailability and inaccessible data as well as a restricted sampling method. Further research would be that importance and influences of culture and work environment should be given more care and more consideration. There should be also development of global manager as a whole. So, and the last point would be that sociological issues impacting on managerial competency, job performance and career success should also be taken into consideration.
Hello everybody. The Article 2 demonstrates a research done on the effects of diversity on human resource management system and organizational performance in service industry. The article also examines performance differences among groups and organizations and how diversity can attenuate or strengthen HRM relationship. The first part of the research focuses on workers' performance, where a set of HRM practices, also known as high-performance work systems, are examined. The second part of the research employs the resource-based view and information decision-making perspective to examine whether various aspects of diversity, such as age diversity, professional tenure diversity, and expertise diversity can strengthen HRM performance relationship. Regarding the literature review, we can see that it is not extensive and it is logical and coherent. It is based on 41 references. Some references are old due to relevant texts, great researchers, frameworks, models, research fields, and also to show and prove the variables and issues that are historically situated. The research is in fact in good balance. The study proposed 4 hypotheses. Hypothesis 1: high performance work system positively affects organizational performance. Hypothesis 2: age diversity moderates the relationship between the HRM system and organizational performance. Hypothesis 3: professional tenure diversity moderates the relationship between the HRM system and organizational performance. And hypothesis 4: expertise diversity moderates the relationship between high performance work system and organizational performance. Regarding the methodology of the research shows how data was collected and how it was analyzed. In fact, the research is a deductive approach. The nature of research design is descriptive. Also, questionnaires have been used for data collection. The collection of data was from companies in the fashion styling industry, such as hair, beauty, and nail salons or spas in the northern, central, and southern regions of Taiwan. The data was collected from 2 sources, namely shops owners or managers and the customer service employees. There were a total of 80 shop owners and 320 customer service employees. The results of response rate were 74.07% and 58.93% respectively. As this study used questionnaires, therefore the research method can be confirmed as quantitative. The data analyzing method used in this study is in fact hierarchical linear regression and classification to examine the 4 hypotheses. Hierarchical multiple regressions were used to test hypothesis 1 and hierarchical moderate regression were used to test hypothesis 2, 3, and 4. The results supported hypothesis 1 and 2, while, on the other hand, it did not support hypothesis 3 and 4. Therefore, the findings indicated that an increase in age diversity strengthens the high performance work system performance relationship. The high performance work system raises team autonomy and cooperation and communication among team members. The findings also indicated that diverse age groups attract diverse customer groups. Therefore, the age diversity improves company attractiveness. Some limitations have been noted in this study. The results of the cross-sectional research in this study must be deeply examined. The sample size may be too small for the selected hypothesis. The sample set was also limited to fashion styling industry. Larger sample sizes and other service industries must be considered for future study. Now, I leave the floor to Alexandre.
Hello guys, we will now have a look at the third article, which is the crossover dialogue approach. This article makes an analysis of the research methods which are used for international business research. The article assumes that the concept of equivalence cannot be applied when making business research and analysis. As most of the theories have been developed by Western cultures, the authors suggest that the theories cannot be applied in the Eastern cultures. The author starts its literature review by supplementing the deductive, inductive, and abductive approaches. He regroups the deductive approach with the ethic approach. He explains that both start from theory and assumes that there is universality in different empirical settings. The advantage of these approaches are that it uses existing theories but the disadvantage is that it does not adapt to the environment where the research is being carried out. The second approach analyzed in the literature review is the inductive approach. The author explains that this approach is more relevant for research as it starts off by analyzing the empirical setting to lately contrast with the theory. However, he suggests that the EMIC is even more useful as this approach treats each empirical setting in a different way. For example, elements of culture are not comparable across countries. The advantage of the EMIC approach is that some unknown aspects which are not in the theory can be discovered, as well as unique cultural concepts. However, the author suggests that this approach might have drawbacks, such as ending up with findings where the theory might not be interesting. The third part of the literature review is the analysis of the abductive approach. In his article, the author suggests that for international business research, it would be more relevant to make use of an emic-ethic approach instead of an abductive approach. The emic-ethic approach is similar to the abductive approach in the sense that it combines both approaches, same as the abductive approach would do with inductive and deductive approach. He explains that the abductive approach might fail in international business research as it has been shaped for Western cultures mainly. However, the emic-ethic approach brings about a solution to the problem by not considering universality over concept of equivalence, as well as putting emphasis on factors such as local, historical, geographical, and social context. The advantage of this approach is that existing theories can be applied to new settings. However, the disadvantage is that this concept is very abstract and that abstract concepts are difficult to apply in an empirical analysis. The author also explained the concept of crystallization. This concept is important in the understanding of the fourth approach, which is the crossover dialogue approach. The concept of crystallization consists of physical interactions during the research process in order to gather information which would not be biased. The observation carried out during the research provides the researcher with data that reflects reality. These methods prevent Orientalism by eliminating stereotypes. Using crystallization, the research problem can be widened and deepened. The crossover dialogue approach makes a combination of the three previously reviewed approaches to create a context-specific research. The inductive emic approach is used to identify the environment-specific context. The theory used from past studies broadens the scope of the research during the development of the framework. Finally, the combination of the different methods used and the crystallized data obtained provides unique and reliable information to the researcher. The author then came up with a hypothesis stating that the crossover dialogue approach does not completely share the objective or the subjective view of reality. The methodology used for the Article 3 consists of an abductive approach with a correlational research design. The author made an empirical and qualitative comparative analysis by using a combination of quantitative and qualitative research methods to gather information. There is no response rate because the author made use of past data and surveys for his article. Table 1 shows the key features analyzed in the article, where the different approaches can be easily compared. The hypothesis, which states that the crossover dialogue approach does not completely share the objective or the subjective view of reality, has been rejected, mainly because it has been said that the interaction between the researcher and the people might influence the views of the people being observed. However, it has been stated lately that even with an interaction in the form of a survey can still be considered as an interaction and might still influence the judgment and the answers of the observer.
In the article, we have seen similarities between the classical research approaches, inductive, deductive, and abductive with emic, ethic, and emit-ethic approach. This analysis of the crossover dialogue approach made by the author is limited by several factors which will make the research more difficult. For example, it will be time-consuming and specific and contextual. Furthermore, the research cannot be applied in other environments. Also, the methodology have been used only by few researchers, which limit the number of frameworks available for comparison. However, this methodology will be useful when further research on culture will be made where the information contained in those research will have been obtained by crystallization process. When we compare the articles, we can see that Article 1 and 2 are deductive approach, also known as the top-down approach, and Article 3 is abductive because it makes use of a combination of both deductive and inductive approach. The response rate for Article 1 and 2 are 73.3% and 61% respectively. For Article 3, there are no response rate because of the nature of the research, which use sparse data and surveys. Descriptive research is used in Article 1 and 2 because it is an efficient method to accurately describe situation or event such as the characteristic of a population, social condition, or a topic. It also can include multiple variables for analysis, yet unlike other methods, it requires only one variable. On the other hand, Article 3 has been using a correlational research design as it was mainly an observational study. Qualitative comparative analysis is a data analysis technique that determines which logical conclusion a data set supports. The analysis in Article 3 begins with listing and counting all the combination of variables observed in the dataset, followed by applying the rules of logical inference to determine which descriptive inferences or implication the data supports. Regression analysis is a quantitative research method which is used when the study involves modeling and analyzing several variables, where the relationship includes a dependent variable and one or more independent variable. One of the main occasions where such analysis is used is to understand the relationship between the independent variables and a dependent variable. This is shown in Article 1 and 2. Article 1 and 2 has been collected data through questionnaires, whereas Article 3 use sparse data and survey to build the research. Article 1 and 2 use quantitative data, whereas Article 3 use a mix of quantitative and qualitative method. The crossover dialogue approach used in Article 3 can be used in Article 1 and 2 because it can improve the quality of the research by using environment-specific factors. Deductive approach limits the possibility to discover new things as it is based on theory as opposed to abductive method which use both deductive and inductive method. Thank you for your attention.